and welcome to the Rooted Project podcast. The goal of this podcast is to help Christians in growing past the planted stage of their Christian life and provide meaningful, practical tips for teens and those that lead them. Well, hello, and welcome to the Rooted Project podcast. My name is Josiah, which all of my teens that are watching this already know, but who knows who else will be watching this, so I figured I'd give you my name. I wanted to start this podcast for a couple of reasons. First, I've always just wanted to have a podcast and stuff like that. I always thought it would be fun. Second, I want to provide other profitable things for my teens specifically to listen to, but also for the church and just being able to get together with other leaders and other pastors and talk about how we can do church better and how we could even do youth ministry better. So this isn't going to be specifically for teens and youth and that type of ministry, but that's kind of where my heart is. That is kind of where I have spent a lot of my time in ministry, which I guess hasn't been that much time. But that's where I've spent a lot of time is with the youth, so that's kind of where I know best to talk about. But excited to be able to talk to other leaders and be able to talk about, like I said, how we can do church better. I am by no means an expert in anything, especially not when it comes to ministry. I haven't been doing it for very long, but I want to grow and I want to learn how to do it better. So I think that this podcast and being able to talk to other leaders will be just as helpful for me as it will for whoever listens to it. This will probably be the only episode or podcast where I'm the only one talking. Like I said, don't have a whole lot of important things to say, so I really want to be able to help us grow by talking to people who might have more to say. And of course, we're going to be looking at Scripture for a lot of the conversations that we have, because that is kind of the foundation and the basis of everything that we find important. So what I wanted to spend this episode on, and since it's just a pilot and it's not going to be very long, me and my wife, Karen, just kind of brainstormed on some simple things that teens can do to stay involved in church, even when we're not in church right now because of the coronavirus. So I just have a list of 5 things. Maybe I'll have another one if I think about it while I'm talking. But we'll dive right into that and just spend a couple minutes talking about ways that teens can get involved in church, even though we're not involved in church. The first one I have here is pray. And I think this is an incredibly biblical example of something we could do during this time, just because it is so important to our Christian life in general. But there are a lot of things that we can be praying for right now. Obviously, sickness is a big thing. We can be praying for our brothers and sisters that are sick or are afraid of getting sick, just that they'll have the wisdom to know how to deal with that when it comes up. And then it's a great time to be praying for our pastors and other leaders, because they've never done this before. They have never experienced a pandemic and leading church through a pandemic when we're not even meeting in actual church. So that's the first thing I have to do is pray. And obviously we should be doing that even if there's not a pandemic. Obviously we should be spending time praying no matter what. But I think that's a big thing that we can focus on right now is just growing our prayer life. The next thing I have is prepare things you can do for when we come back. So prepare things you can do when you come back. I have children's church lessons and special music were the 2 things that came to my mind right away. This was actually Karen's idea, so I'll give her credit. And I think that's great. And I think that's also an incredibly biblical practice we see. The one that came to my mind was David. David was musically inclined, so he spent time while he was working for his father and watching sheep. He spent time playing his harp and singing and practicing and getting good at that. And then when the time came for him to work in Saul's court and to be able to soothe him with the music, he was ready to do that. He wasn't caught not prepared. So I think that's something that is incredibly biblical, and I think we have examples of that throughout the Scripture of just preparing when we have time. I know that I am personally a wait till the last minute type of person, which is not good. I'm not saying you should be that way. But I think that this is a great time when we have this month off of church, or a month and a half, or 2 months, or however long it is, to be able to come back from this time better than you were before and more prepared than you were before, and being able to lead than lead more than you could before. And I think that'll be an encouragement to our pastors as well, is if we come back and don't want them to still do all the work, but we come back and realize, hey, like, I'm part of this church too. I'm part of this body. Like, let me help you in some way. And I think that'll be a great encouragement. So we have pray, prepare things you can do when we come back. And then I have number 3, participate in the activities that your church runs. Obviously within the legal limits that we have right now of gathering and people and stuff like that. So the first, so our church actually ran a medical drive. Where, not a medical drive necessarily, but a drive just of goods that had medical supplies and snacks and thank you cards and stuff like that. And I think that's a pretty creative way that, the people in charge decided to be able to be a help to our community during this time instead of just kind of shutting ourselves in and just putting videos out on Facebook. They actually took the time to reach out to other people, to reach out and show, hey, we care for you, not just in our prayers and in our, videos and these things that we're putting out, but we also care for you physically. Like, we understand that you need these things. We understand that you might be tired and a snack would be helpful. You might understand that you might be getting, discouraged with how hard you have to work. So here's some thank you notes. So I think that was a super creative way that we were able to participate in our community. But I don't know what maybe your church is doing if you don't go to Canaan. But there are definitely ways that your pastors right now are trying to be active and to be a help in the community. And I can guarantee there would be nothing more encouraging than to have teens, or anybody for that matter, show up and be willing to help. And since we're not in church right now, this is almost like the only way you could actually like go to church. I mean, if it's at church. And I think that, just being willing to help in any way possible would be a big encouragement. And then also just kind of helps you to stay connected. Along those lines, my next thing is to stay connected. You can do this. There are tons of ways to do this, especially in today's world with social media and texting and Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. It is very easy to stay connected today. So it's a bit of a shame that, at least for me, I don't feel like I'm reaching out as well as I can. But we have so many ways to reach out to our church and to our church family right now. A couple that I have are letters. I know that I love getting letters. I love getting stuff in the mail just because it's just fun. It doesn't happen that much anymore. Whenever Karen gets a package for anything, I always ask her if I can open it because I just love opening things that come in the mail. So that can be a big encouragement to somebody, is to just get a letter that they weren't expecting. And just a word of encouragement, or hey, I'm praying for you. This is kind of how we're dealing with this situation. I hope that you're staying healthy and well. So letters are a great one. Texts are so simple. It doesn't have to be a letter. It doesn't have to be 3 paragraphs long. It could just be hey, love you, thinking about you. Let me know how I can pray for you. Or I prayed for you today, and I was just curious how else I could better pray for you, or how is this situation going in your life? Because if people know that we care, then it's a great way to stay connected and to kind of keep church going, even though we're not meeting in church. Church isn't just a Sunday thing or a Wednesday night thing. Church is a group of people. So I think that one thing that's going to happen because of the coronavirus is that we're going to learn what church looks like when we're not just, aside of just meeting once or twice a week. I think we're going to realize that church is discipleship and growing each other and learning to be together throughout the week and encourage each other throughout the week, and not just 1 day a week or 2 days a week. And the next thing I have under the staying connected is phone calls. I know that it's kind of along the lines of those other things. But phone calls are a really great way to have a personal touch. I know letters can kind of do that too, but phone calls are a great way to actually have a conversation with somebody. You hear that voice on the other side of the line, and it's not just words on a page. You can have a great conversation, or even Zoom meetings. I know that the college and career class at Canaan, we did a Zoom meeting just the other night, and it was actually a ton of fun. I didn't know how I was going to go at first because I've never done one before where I actually was involved in it. But it was a great encouragement just to sit there and talk to all these people that I, am friends with and haven't actually talked to a whole lot or seen face to face. So that was a big encouragement to me. And so I think staying connected throughout the coronavirus is a great way to encourage the church and stay active in the church. And then the last one that I have for teens specifically, just because this is kind of the way that my mind works when it comes to media, because I am a media person, I love cameras and all that kind of stuff, is to offer to help with media. Your church social media or whatever. I know that a lot of pastors don't either have time, and that's why they weren't like that active on social platforms in the first place, or they just don't know how that well. Pastors are in a tough spot right now because not only do they have to learn how to pastor during a pandemic, but they also have to learn how to be professional social media coordinators. So one of the things that I did, I reached out to one teen in particular, but I'm planning on reaching out to a couple more, and just saying, hey, if I give you a list of verses or some quotes and stuff like that over different things that we're studying, would you be willing to create different pictures and media and like design different your quote pictures? And they loved the idea. They thought it was great. So I think that is one way that teens in particular can be a great encouragement, because teens have grown up with social media. Teens have grown up like creating things, and even if they're not the most artsy person, they could probably still take better pictures than a lot of other people. So I think that is a way that teens can be a big help, is just by being able to be available, offering to, make photos for the church Instagram or Facebook, or even to show up and help your pastor make a video for the church, whether it's, editing it or recording it. And it's not to say that pastors can't do that things. It's just that teens, it's second nature. So those are the 5 things that I have that I think teens can practically be doing, instead of just saying, oh, well, you just help, just kind of do, whatever you think you could do to help. But I think these are some practical ways that we can be active in our church right now and not just passive through this time. So I hope that was encouragement to you. Wherever you watch this video, go ahead. If you can, just let us know what you let us. I guess it's just me. Let me know what you think about it. Maybe if you have other ideas of things that teens can do to practically be involved in church during the coronavirus, leave that in the comments. We don't. I mean, I guess if you listen to this on the podcast, you can't leave a comment. But you know what I'm saying. Reach out to us somehow, to me somehow, and I'll be happy to have you listen to the next one. And I actually didn't think about how I was going to end this. So, bye.